Hello and welcome. We'll get started in just a moment. Come on in, and we're so glad that you've joined us today. Welcome, welcome. We'll get just started in a moment. Come on in. All right, 12:01. We've cracked
Right?
172. I think we're going to get more people, but I'm going to invite my colleague Wanzi to start us. Oh, 173. It keeps going. Off to you, Wanzi.
All right. I think we will just start, and the people who are coming in will just join us as we do our welcomes. You can click to the next slide, Anna. And anyway, for everybody, welcome to our webinar. In case you are wondering whether you're in the right place or not, this is the How TK has Destabilized California's Childcare Sector and What Can Be Done webinar. First, I want to start off by thanking our funders. The policy brief we shared was generously supported by the California Department of Social Services, the Heising Simons Foundation, the Blue Shield of California Foundation, Silicon Valley Foundation, Community Foundation, and the Bay Area's Jobs First Collaborative. For those who don't know who we are the Center for the Study of Childcare Employment, affectionately known as CSCCE, and we provide research and analysis on the preparation, working conditions, and compensation of the early care and education workforce. We develop policy solutions and create spaces for teaching, learning, and educator activism. Our vision really is of a publicly funded early care and education system that secures racial, gender, and economic justice for the mostly women whose labor is the linchpin of quality services for working families. And in this system, teaching and caring for young children is a good job. Okay, my name is Wanzi, as Anna already alluded, and my colleague Anna will be co-facilitating this session. And we also want to thank our project teammates, Megan, Raul, Yunjan Kim, Abby Kopman-Petit, and our communications teammates who have made it really possible for this webinar to come together and for you guys to be able to join us, Toby, Leah, and Penelope. Okay, I will just briefly talk about like this series. So you are joining the first of three. The first one today is talking about the overview of the brief that was recently released, How Transitional Kindergarten is Destabilized California's Childcare Sector. And then we have another one in September, which is about preparing early educators for infants and toddlers. And then the third one, end of September, September 30th, we'll be looking at remaking licensed facilities for infants and toddlers. So we are hoping that after you've enjoyed today's sharing, you will be able to join us again for the next two sessions. So just briefly, today's agenda, like how are we going to do it? So first of all, my colleague Anna will give us highlights from the new CSCCE brief. I hope you have seen the brief and managed to peruse through it, but Anna will share some highlights of the key findings from that brief. And then after that, I will do an interview with Tonya McMillan. Some of you might know her, some of you might not, but she is the woman who shakes things up. And I hope that she will share enough for us to all be motivated to make sure that the childcare system works for all our children and families and educators in California. And then we will share some ready-to-use resources for those who are wondering, why am I here? What can I take away? Deborah Coleman will share their experiences from LA County about what can be done really to help the system continue to serve children and families well. So I'll pass it over to Anna.
Thank you so much, Wanzi. All right, let's get into it. This brief was published just a week or two ago, so totally understand if you haven't read it yet. We will share a QR code so that you can follow through and read all of the details. We will also share our slides for those of you who'd like to have that after the fact. And finally, there will be a recording. So plenty to take away from today in addition to these resources. But I'd like to start by anchoring on what we're seeing in the data. And of course, our data really is in reflection of what we've been hearing from providers, from early educators across California about the challenges of this new normal. And we've called the brief Can't Compete with Free, because as many of you may know, transitional kindergarten is our state's only universal, free to everyone, fully available early care and education offering as of yet. So what do we mean by this? What I'm sharing you here is a visual that's showing you the share of different types of early care and education settings that are serving children by age. And so this means they have at least one child. For example, in the age 3 category, 67% of family child care providers are serving this age, at least one or more. And I put this green box around age 4 and 5 because TK age children, while they start out at 4, they need to be 4 at the beginning of the year. But by the spring, when our 2025 workforce survey went out, actually a lot of them are 5. So what I want you to notice here is that Head Start and Title V centers and all other child care centers, the vast majority of them are still serving 4-year-olds, at least some of them. But there is this drop off that only 2/3 of them are keeping, even some to the age of 5. And even more striking, our family child care educators, we're seeing only 57% have even one 4-year-old, and only 39% have even one 5. So if we're talking about a UPK system where children are being served in many settings, this is already giving us some questions about whether that's still possible for our non-TK settings. Are they able to serve 4 and 5-year-olds? And right, our center folks, they're holding on, they're trying to serve them at least some, but we're already seeing evidence that by 5, many children are leaving. Now, that was, of course, a point in time, our big 10,000 person survey from last year. But what I'm showing you here now is actually comparing some data from 2 years prior in 2023 to see, well, what is this decline looking like? And are we seeing really replacement of younger children? So looking onto the right side, well, the decline is pretty clear. The average site lost several 4 or 5-year-old children in this center-based examples, both in the top dark blue Head Start Title V, right, including state preschool, but also for other centers which don't have those grants. But what you're not seeing on this chart is a big surge in 3-year-olds, right? The next oldest group of kids, like you might expect. And there's some evidence of an increase of 0 to 2 in the non-Head Start Title V center, but we're not seeing this smooth as butter swap from preschool-aged children to younger children. We need more data, of course, to see if this is happening in pockets, but it's not looking like a dramatic, easy switch for programs to begin serving younger children as they lose 4 and 5-year-olds. So what does kind of this all add up to? Well, what I'm showing you here is our estimate of the market share for enrollment. So if we add up every different type of enrollment in a licensed or formalized early care and education setting, right? Setting FFN over to the side, a really robust other dimension. We're seeing that in that 4 and 5-year-olds, so the bottom two bars here, yes, there's still plenty of places that 4-year-olds are being served, but this TK/NK green bar for schools is really growing. It's such that by the time we're looking at 5-year-olds, really there's this overwhelming majority of kids that are being served in those settings. So our promise of having UPK as being pluralistic and having all these many options for parents, yes, it's still there, but it's really challenged. And we're finding that really, especially our family childcare providers, are struggling to even have one child in that age group. So talking about pivoting then, because if your children at 4 and 5 are leaving, you do need to enroll younger children in order to stay open. We do see when we compare 23 to 25 that there is some evidence of an increase in serving 2-year-olds. So before we saw the average number of 2-year-olds in some sites is going up, but we're also seeing just even serving them at all is increasing a bit. So for our family childcare educators, not much of an increase. They were already frequently serving that age group since they're used to a mixed age program. But for our centers, the Head Start Title V folks, went from 45% of them serving twos to 50%. So, not nothing. And the other folks, the all other centers category, had a bigger increase from 78 to 86%. So they're perhaps making more headway in increasing their service to this group. But an important caveat here is that in order to serve younger than 2.5, many centers will need a new license. So this might be something that could take quite some time, as we'll see in a moment. Now, I'm going to share with you some quotes that we gathered from our focus groups because I wanted to help illustrate what does it look like to try to navigate this as a site leader. So we conducted focus groups with center and family childcare site leaders who have been at that since before the pandemic. They have that experience, they have the longevity to be able to talk about what is the business model used to look like and what are they experiencing now. And here's where we get the title of our brief. ECE programs have tried marketing themselves, but they can't compete with free. And what I want folks to understand here is it's not that programs are just sort of sitting back saying, oh, well, I guess I'll enroll more younger children. They're actually fighting really hard to try to explain and make the case that this is a high quality program and they want to continue offering it. And we heard a number of directors and folks say, we've tried every ploy, everything you could think of, social media, more old school, such as ripping little numbers off at the grocery store, off the advertisements on the shopping carts, Valpak coupons in your mail at home. So we either heard, I've tried everything and it doesn't work, or I think I might want to start to try marketing. And what I would say to folks is, listen to your colleagues who've tried. It sounds like it's a big headache and it unfortunately is not yielding the results you would want. And related to that, providers are also really trying to stand on the strengths that they know that they can offer. Telling folks, listen, I've been operating for decades. My staff are highly experienced. They love this work. But unfortunately, parents really don't have an authentic choice when it comes to a free program or, public school program and the other options. So one FCC provider said, I try to mention that a small group is really great. It's better than a big group. And with me, they don't have to pick up the kids at noontime and then look for childcare. My pitch doesn't work that much. So after that, I just give up, right? It's hard to emphasize quality when it comes down to pocketbook issues and the affordability that we know parents are struggling with. Similarly, a center director said, we have a curriculum, it's age appropriate, but parents don't realize that preschool teachers are not just babysitters. We are educated specifically to work with early learners. So once again, it's really disappointing to folks that they are emphasizing and talking about the rich offerings that they have, but unfortunately, parents aren't really able to weigh that. So this first takeaway is really that family childcare and preschool providers are struggling to take part in UPK. The TK children are leaving, even though the programs are fighting to try to keep them. All right, part 2 of the data, and then we're going to have some great conversations. So now what? Programs are seeing their 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds depart, and that means really a pivot to younger children is in order, whether they're ready for it or not. And unfortunately, it really does take new staff and new skills. And by new, I often mean more, right? More staff and more skills. And we're hearing that this is not something that the sector can easily find lots of people ready to go who have that expertise and that interest, quite frankly. So an FCC provider told us, well, not everybody is trained. Everybody doesn't have early education units. So if somebody's not trained, you can't take their help. A center director added, we've had to provide training for our existing staff and then training for newly hired staff, not only just diaper changing, but how to work with and teach younger children. We've had to hire additional staff to support them because they do need more care and more assistance. Some of them can't feed themselves. Some of them can't stay in a chair while they're eating. So these quotes are really showing that it's not so simple as to say, oh, 4-year-olds have moved on, bring in the 2s and 3s. That's actually a big difference. The care itself, the job demands are all quite different. And on the topic of job demands, here we have some great quotes illustrating how physical and challenging this work can be. One director told us, we have teachers who are older and all the lifting up of the kids and putting them on the changing table is really taking a toll. Everyone's got nerve pinches, back problems, and it's hard to sustain our aging workforce with all the physical demands of serving younger children and making sure everyone's safe. And by everyone, they really do mean both the teachers and the children. The work is more intense with a 2-year-old set than for a 4 or 5-year-old. An FCC provider adds to this conversation, sometimes we just don't have it in us. I wish I could just call out sick one day without feeling the blowback, but I haven't had the privilege of taking a paid day off for over 8 years. And zooming in once again on the issues within the child care center space, many centers have never enrolled children under 3 before, and many need a new license to go younger than that. Our family child care educators, as I mentioned, are really accustomed to a mixed age group most of the time, and so there are still challenges, but they don't need to start serving those kids. For one center director told us our license, preschool license, was always 2.5 to 6. But we never used to take kids at 2.5 ever. We would just say we start at 3, we go until kindergarten, and that was it. But since TK came along, we have had to start taking kids at 2.5. So that is a big difference, right? Going back to this conversation on the differences in the physicality of care, the demands, the craft of providing that education. And another director said we did apply to enroll starting at 18 months so that we could accept children younger than 2, but our application is in a stack of applications and they just haven't gotten to us yet. It's been a couple of years. So even if a program wants to make that pivot, they might actually have a number of bureaucratic hurdles standing between them and making the change. It's not so simple as saying, I have room now for younger children, I'm going to start serving them. There are all sorts of transformations, both bureaucratic, staffing wise, and facilities wise, that are needed. And on that note, unfortunately, site leaders just don't typically have funding or capacity to update those facilities and equipment. What does that look like? Well, an FCC provider explained, I've had to change our outdoor environment. We had to remove a lot of the larger climbing structures and focus more on soft areas for the children that are still crawling or comfortable being closer to the ground. One director said, to add more toddlers or even go down to a younger age group, we would need to build out additional sinks in our classrooms, changing areas, things like that. It wouldn't be realistic for us right now. We know from our research and from just countless work that has been done that there's not a lot of capital or spare cash. Frequently, program providers are really struggling to have enough cash coming in and going out, covering just the basics. So making these big ticket items affordable is really not something that most providers can do. So takeaway 2, pivoting to younger children is easier said than done. Early educators and their facilities do not have the resources they need to retool and navigate this transition. Well, enough data. Let's hear directly from somebody who can speak to this from their own experience, from the professional experience of being a member of the ECE workforce. I'm going to invite my colleague Wanzi to conduct a brief interview.
Thank you very much, Hannah, and welcome, Tonya. I would just give you a couple of minutes to introduce yourself to our listeners and fellow panelists.
Okay, let's see. Hi, Wanzi. Hello, everybody. I am Tanya McMillan. I am the woman who shakes things up with Black Californians United for Early Care and Education, Black ECE. But I am also a retired family child care provider for almost 30 years, providing care for children ages 2 weeks, literally to age 13. And I'm now an FFN for my grandkids. So still have both feet in the work, Wanzi.
Oh, thank you so much, Tonya. And I think you are the best person to help us understand how TK expansion is impacting providers. So TK expansion has been happening since 2021, and now it's fully operational. How has the expansion affected childcare providers in California?
Ooh, okay. So I have a list, Wanzi.
Okay.
I have a list. So
Yes.
let's start off with enrollments. It is very difficult for center-based environments, also family childcare environments, to shift when they have sudden drop-offs in their enrollment. Let's talk about income, predictable income streams. That it 100% affects centers and family childcare homes to even plan on the money that's coming in, operational costs. I saw in one of the clips that Anna just showed, the physicality. And I want to make a note about the physicality, especially for older. It doesn't necessarily have to be older early educators. If you are in this work for a number of years, that physical work, it does take a toll on the body. Let's talk about the experienced early educators. As they see more families choosing free TK, they're now leaving the field because benefits and pay is better within the public school systems. And speaking of the public school systems, historically, K through 12 systems um, have been designed to undervalue the work of early educators in centers, in family child care homes, even FFNs. And so this still is an extension of that devaluation that has existed within the ECE systems since the inception, literally, especially when this country saw early educators as domestic workers. So it's still there.
Thank you, Tonya. So you talked about the drop in revenues, the attempt to pivot, the working with younger kids, and it all boils down to this loss of 4-year-olds, the TK-age children, as they move into schools. Why are these TK-age children, the 4-year-olds, so important to childcare providers?
So I'm going to speak on one provider that I know personally, and I know I'm speaking for many. Sue Carrera, who is a family child care provider in Inglewood. Sue only takes, I think, 2-year-olds to 5-year-olds. Her entire curriculum is centered on that age group. So when they leave her space, not only are they grounded and ready to enter into the K through 12 system, but they are leaving a program that is specifically designed for them. And she's been doing this for years. So now enter TK, and now her enrollment has dropped. Her operational stability now has changed. Her revenue has decreased, has declined. Family continuity, and this is in other homes. This splits up the families. There are so many, and I don't want to say unintended consequences, because I don't feel like there was a lot of conversations. There were a lot of conversations that took place before this TK system was put in place. And that is unfortunate.
Yes, that is unfortunate for sure. And unfortunately, it does affect not only the providers, but the children and the families, like you mentioned, continuity of care, the assurance that parents had of knowing that, this is the path that the children will follow. Anyways, for the few minutes we have together for this part of our session, I want you to think about like some of the things that you have heard from what Anna presented, some of your own thoughts as you were reflecting back. What is the number one thing listeners should take away? It could be number 2 and 3 as well, Tonya.
Okay. Right off the bat, this entire system, it really is not a mixed delivery system. We really need a true and honest mixed delivery system where every early education platform is represented, and it's represented by folks who know the work, who've done the work, who've had the experience, who've have played roles in the development and the success for the children that have cross through their doors. I also would like to see spaces where linguistic and cultural biases are eliminated, especially in the K through 12 system, the TK through 12 system, because right now we know, and I learned this at our Black ECE symposium, Wanzi, we know that the assessments that are taken, those assessments were centered around native English speaking, non native English speaking white households. And so when children are in cultural spaces, linguistic spaces where they are elevated, recognized, respected, then and only then can we really pour into them and get them ready for the next step, for the next environment that they're going to enter.
Well, thank you so much, Tonya. And I think I will also take away your last message that, the system has to be a true mixed delivery system. And I think for some of you who might not know, if you visit our website, we have publications that shows the cultural match, the linguistic match that early care and education environments provide for kids, because the demographic composition of early childhood educators closely resembles the demographic composition of the children in their care. So I just wanted to add to that. And thank you so much, Tonya. It's wonderful, and I hope the people do take the message you left us with.
Thank you, Wanzi.
Okay. Cute. Okay, Anna, you can share the
You guys got to all enjoy a picture of my niece for a second there.
They are very cute. They are super cute. Okay, so I will share a little bit of the recommendations that came from our policy brief, like what can we really do about this? So we have recommendations focused at the state level, as well as recommendations focused at the policy level. So state level policy recommendations, I don't think anything we are going to say is new, but it's important to reiterate what we already know. It is important to invest in the true cost of care across the full ECE system. Like I said in the introduction, we really believe that a publicly funded system is a system that will work for both, that funds care for the true cost of care, will work for both the providers as well as the families. We also recommend for the state to revive the Child Care and Development Infrastructure Grant Fund. As Anna presented, it is challenging for providers to just shift their facilities and start caring for younger children. So they need that financial support. We also recommend reducing the licensing turnaround times. 2 years waiting for the license to be revised or get a new license to serve a different age group is really a long time for a provider, and they are likely to close their doors if that doesn't happen in a timely fashion. We also recommend providing guidance and technical assistance for providers going younger. As Tonya said, there are some who have really built their systems to serve certain age groups, and sometimes those were the older kids who are now in TK. So helping them so that they can pivot and serve the younger ones. And we also recommend incentivizing school districts to partner with their local ECE system, recognizing that if they are really part of the system, they should be looking at themselves as also part of the mixed delivery system and partnering with the CBOs to make the system work. Next slide, Anna. So for the local level policy makers and decision makers, we have a few recommendations. We recommend that because we know that usually things do happen at the ground, and we know that there are so many localities that are doing great things to help providers pivot. So we recommend ensuring professional development and pathways help educators prepare for younger children. As we heard from Anna's presentation, sometimes people were just trained to work with a certain age group, and they have been experienced. They spend like their lifetime working with preschoolers, with 3-year-olds or with 4-year-olds, and just pivoting to start working with infants and toddlers doesn't happen magically. So they need the professional development support. Help providers update and equip their facilities. I don't think we can stress that enough. You cannot just turn the space that was meant for 4-year-olds to become a space where toddlers and infants operate. I don't think it works that way. So infrastructure support is really important. Create space for site leaders to lean on and learn from one another. Like I said, we know there are some who have been experimenting there, and they can provide lessons learned, success stories, strategies for doing things differently to their colleagues. And we also believe local leaders could build parents' awareness of ECU options for 2 years and 3-year-old in their community. That way, we keep the system working as we develop a stronger and better system that can actually accommodate all children from birth to, a full cradle to career system, so to speak. And if you want to read the full report, please scan the QR code up on your screen, and you can download it, you can bookmark it, and come back to it at your own leisure. But we have it out there, it's available, you can take a close look. So I'm gonna now turn to our second panelist, Deborah Coleman, and she'll share with us some of the things they've done in LA County to help as the system is responding and reacting to full transitional kindergarten in full implementation. Deborah, you can start by introducing yourself and then get on with it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Wanzi, for the warm introduction. So my name is Deborah Coleman. I'm the director of the LA County Office for the Advancement of Early Care and Education. And one of the joys that I have is our office staffs the local Child Care and Development Planning Council for LA County. So we are deep in being on the ground, listening to folks, hearing the day-to-day struggles, and really trying to develop solutions to address them. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to ask Wanzi to tell me if hopefully I can find the right slide deck. And I'm going to ask her to tell me when it is up. Okay. Whoops. That did not work. So hold on. We're going to try this one more time. Yeah. It works in the practice run.
It did.
So we will try to share now.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I have found it. All right. Wanzi, can you see my screen?
Yes. Just put it on slideshow. There we go. That's working. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, all right, how do we meet this moment of change and lean into innovation? The first thing I will say is change is hard, and our system is in the middle of a once-in-a-lifetime transition. Early care and education is shifting in the state of California. So I was really drawn to this particular proverb that says, when winds of change blow, some people build walls while others build windmills. So in our early care and education system, no matter where you sit in it, if you are an ECE provider or a funder or a part of state, city, or county government, let's lean into really harnessing this change for the benefit of the system and all children. So how do we embrace innovation during a time of uncertainty? We're going to take a moment to go through each of these 5 strategies. So first, to seek understanding about transitional kindergarten and universal pre-kindergarten, to cultivate partnerships between school districts and community-based ECE, to shift infrastructure to look a little bit different for more children birth to 3 and before and after school care, enhancing skills and investing in training staff to support infants and toddlers. And lastly, really strengthening our systems, looking at regulations, how they need to be modified, and different types of funding models. So first, I'd like to invite everyone to seek understanding. In LA County, once the Universal Pre-Kindergarten Grant rolled out, asking the local planning councils, which big shout out to our LA County Local Planning Council, which is the Child Care Planning Committee, and all of its council members, because this really stands on their backs. They are the boots of the ground, and they are the brains and the vision behind all of the work I am sharing today. They were charged with integrating our existing mixed delivery ECE system with this new universal pre-kindergarten umbrella, which TK is a part of. So one of the things that we did was developed a practical guide for early care and education providers to understand what universal pre-kindergarten is and what some of the opportunities are. I put our website in the chat, and all of the toolkits I'm going to share with you today are available for you to download at childcare.lacounty.gov. So first, learn about what it is, what it isn't, and examine your opportunities. So for example, there are opportunities that we are exploring in LA County to become a part of a UPK instructional model, because family child care homes, for the most part, have been left out of the model for UPK. Many times they don't have an instructional model, but we discovered that a Fetchin, a family child care home education network that has a California state preschool funding stream, can be an instructional model. So there is a wonderful pathway there that could be led by a local school district or by a community-based organization. And finally, please go to your local Child Care and Development Planning Council meetings, be a voice, give input. You are a part of this work, and your input is critical to make sure that as we are looking at how to make the system better for all children, that your voice is counted. Number 2 is around cultivating partnerships. In LA County, we have 77 school districts that are implementing transitional kindergarten. That's a lot. And we also have 8 resource and referral agencies. So trying to build those partnerships and help connect people was critical. So we developed a directory to help identify who are the key people that need to be working together. I really encourage everyone, whether you're an early care and education provider or a school district or a charter school, to figure out ways to meet. My biggest takeaway in this work is that we often don't talk to each other, even though our biggest goal is to invest in the early learning of young children. And so developing that common language, we all speak differently, having common goals. In LA County, we have unified fact sheets for families to understand all of their early learning options for their 3- and 4-year-old children under UPK. This was developed in partnership with the resource and referral agencies, as well as our local county office of education. So having that unified voice and messaging so that we are not working against each other, but really together. All environments do not work for all children or families. So making sure that we're elevating parents' knowledge and understanding about their different choices is really critical. Also discussing partnerships. TK programs are not full day. So how can early care and education programs that are licensed step in to fill that need? There is funding going to school districts called ELOP, extended learning funding, that could support before and after school programs with our licensed ECE programs with highly qualified staff. And so elevating that to school districts or school districts reaching out to learn how you can work with your local ECE program is really critical. Also sharing space, bringing community-based programs on campus or into shuttered schools is a great way to reduce operational costs for early care and education and build partnerships as our system transforms. And finally, fortifying EC referral relationships. So knowing that school districts should have strong partnerships with their local resource and referral agency and have those types of relationships where referral systems are what you first think of. How can I get this family support? Our third piece is about shifting infrastructure. To help with this, we actually had a wonderful opportunity to develop a toolkit for both centers and family child care homes to be able to navigate what it means to shift your program really to expand infant and toddler care. So the first thing I would say is be responsive to local community need. Every county, through its local child care and development planning council, every year needs to establish local funding priorities. This means they need to look at all the zip codes in their county and the number of eligible children who are eligible for subsidized early care and education compared to the number enrolled. So use that as a guide when you're thinking of pivoting your program. How are you fulfilling a need that you're seeing where there might be a number of income eligible children that are not being served? Also, we know that renovating and developing facilities is a timely and complex process, which is why we developed this guide to help all of you. But also, what we found is building relationships across the government systems that help with facility development are critical. Regional planning, fire, health and safety, community care licensing, all of them are part of facility renovation or development. Also, if you are a public or private funder, investing in ECE facility grants. We had a great deal of investment a few years ago from the state of California. We really need more of that now, but also thinking about fee waivers. There are fees from regional planning, fire, safety, different municipalities before construction even begins on a facility. And in LA County, we had a very successful fee waiver program, so no one paid fees. If you are connected to a municipality and you have the ability to influence ordinances, thinking about how we can make requirements for new housing or commercial developers to pay a fee that supports infant and toddler facilities, or as we're building new developments, to support them by a space being carved out for infants and toddlers to be able to support a facility in that space in their community. Finally, thinking about how you can adapt this toolkit to your local city or county, because although some things in here are statewide, others are very specific to your locale location. Number 4 is all about building skills. We know that not all early educators have a desire to shift from preschool-aged children to our youngest learners working with infants and toddlers. It is a very different population. And those who do decide to make that shift, we want to make sure they have the tools, knowledge, and confidence to work well with our youngest children. So we developed the Caring for Los Angeles County's Youngest Learners an infant toddler professional development catalog. This catalog has a list of not only professional development programs, some are local to LA County, others are statewide, and others are national. Also, we looked at colleges and what coursework could help support making that transition and providing strong skills for our ECE workforce pivoting to younger children. So in a local county or city, This catalog is available from my office at the Office for the Advancement of Early Care and Education. If you'd like to adapt it for your municipality, there might be just a few things in there you'd like to tweak. Also, if you are either a government funder or you're with philanthropy, funding professional development, not only the trainings, but also substitutes and substitute scholarships so staff can attend the training, knowing that the children in their care are also being watched over. Finally, the long journey is really shifting this system. There has been a wonderful amount of investment in the UPK transition, investing both in integrating the EC mixed delivery system in this transition, as well as ensuring that TKs are really developmentally appropriate and able to function serving children well. But there has not been the same type of investment in the transformation of the infant toddler system. And we need to really think about how we can support that system. So as we're exploring models, exploring opportunities to reduce operational costs, maybe by connecting family childcare homes and family friend and neighbor to existing resources, like are there programs that could provide free diapers to every family childcare home or family friend and neighbor? Are there ways to bundle insurance costs or have discounts for family childcare homes? Also creating an online real-time EC referral and enrollment system so that when there is a space available, we have an ability to navigate families to that space immediately so that spots are not left unfilled. Also looking at regulatory changes. So how do we need to change our regulations, especially for centers or family childcare homes, so that they are being adapted to the shift that is happening right now with the TK expansion? Is there an opportunity to have a sustainable and economically viable model that could serve mostly infants and toddlers? Do we have to think about a different kind of model that also brings in before and after school care? Or is it expanding California state preschool programs through family childcare home education networks so that we have programs that are instructional models in FCCs as a part of universal pre-kindergarten? And finally, thinking about compensation. So establishing a reimbursement rate for infant and toddler ECE providers that really are 100% of the true cost of care, as well as revising regulations to ensure children of infants, our workforce who have children, that infant and toddler workforce actually have the ability to be eligible for subsidized care themselves. So we have a blueprint that fortifies the infant toddler system, again, available on our website at childcare.lacounty.gov. This has 20 recommendations that are legislative, programmatic, or regulatory, all available for you to take to your local community and see what you would like to lean into. If you'd like to talk more about this, we have a wonderful team at the Office for the Advancement of Early Care and Education, which we affectionately call in LA County OAECE. You can reach out to find out more at oaece@ph.lacounty.gov, or give us a call at 213-639-6202. You can also download any of the toolkits that I spoke about here today. They're available in multiple languages. And again, everything we design are both for centers. There's a section for centers and a section for family childcare homes. You can also download any of our reports, or if you'd like to access the blueprint to fortify infant and toddler care in ECE by going to our website as well. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Thank you very much, Deborah. Thank you so much for sharing. You know, it's always nice to share something that can be done, because sometimes people feel defeated that, oh my goodness, these big problems. But you have given us something that I think everybody can take away. But we have only a few minutes, and I want to ask you a couple of questions. The first one will be that people might say, oh, LA County, you know, they have a big budget. They are such a big county. What can any county do? What is one thing that you think any county could actually do to help address some of the challenges?
Absolutely. That's a really great question, Wanzi. I would say one of the most effective things we did in LA County didn't cost any money, but it did take time and relationships. So we realized the challenges that we were having in facility renovation. We have a very complex system. It's hard to jump through all the hoops. So before we actually developed the toolkit to shift to more infant and toddler care, we started building relationships with our regional planning system. And we started by making them champions. They had no idea the problems we were having with facilities in ECE. So we shared with them the challenges, we made them champions, and then we said, who else needs to be in this room? And they said, oh, we need fire in here. And oh, we need to also bring in public works, our health and safety team. And we said, oh, and we need to bring in community care licensing. So we started a work group to really come up with some easy solutions. And the easiest solution that we found was, can we designate a point person that actually is the early care and education point person in regional planning, in public works, in the fire department? And then let's set up a webpage and let's put those names on there so that our field does not have to hunt. And since regional planning often gets the applications for change first, can we make sure that regional planning tells the other departments that this is going on? So figuring out ways to make systems that are existing easier to navigate, calling people that are your unusual suspects. I don't know how many, EC folks work closely with regional planning, but they're really nice people who want to help and want to do the right thing.
Thank you, Deborah. So there you go. Even a small county, I think, can do that. And
Yes.
my last question for you is, so LA County has been using these resources for a while now. What is a lesson that you would want to share with others, or what is something that has surprised you as you did this work that you would want to share with our listeners?
Probably the biggest surprise, the biggest challenge, and the biggest opportunity is the same thing. We have a divided system with TK sitting in local education agencies and charter schools and school districts, and community-based early care and education, whether you're a privately owned center, a nonprofit center, a family child care home, sitting very much in another system. We don't speak the same language, but we all have children at the center of our work, right? I feel like it's been very hard talking to both sides of the system, and it's very easy to pit us against each other, to make one or the other the enemy. We all want a good early education environment for young children. We have an opportunity to build partnerships, but we don't talk to each other. So one of the things that we did in LA County when we realized this is we started hosting a breakfast where we can bring together school districts and community ECE, the resource and referral agencies, into one single room so that we can have conversations, so that we can have a unified language, so that we can set some common goals. We both need each other. And I think that is the most important lesson that I've learned that if we can envision a system where we're all working together, the children that we are so much trying to serve are going to be really well taken care of and given a great start.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Yes, we are victims of a fragmented system, and sometimes we have to find ways of making that patchwork work. Thank you so much. I'll pass it over to my colleague Anna to close us out. Anna?
Thank you guys. Thank you, Wanzi, Deborah, Tanya, for joining us today and sharing your perspective. You know, we as researchers really want our data to be in conversation with folks who are living this transformation. And hopefully, this is not the end of that conversation. I know many of you were raising ideas and chatting us. We will have 2 other sessions which will go into greater depth that we hope you'll join us, all about what educators need and how they are experiencing this transition. That will be up next on September 8th with some wonderful speakers once again. And then on September 30th, we'll go all in on the licensed facilities and the learning/working environments that this care is taking place in. Because really, we're just setting the stage with this conversation. Now, want to also remind that we will send the slides, we'll send the brief, the resources that we shared, and we are also interested in staying in touch with you. This is clearly, as our speakers are sharing, this great challenge, this great moment that we're in. And it's essential that we work together both at the local and the state level to ensure that this is a challenge where our children and families and the providers who have made this their career, made this their livelihood, are able to weather that change. So please do stay in touch with us. We want to hear your ideas, your suggestions. We'll be talking with, policymakers, we hope, for folks who are working on legislation. If you're looking for data to help advocate, we have toolkits, we have resources for you. So please be in touch with us. And finally, if you're not following our newsletter where we release new reports and information, as well as sharing, important things that are happening, please do sign up. CSCCE is going to keep ringing this bell, joining the providers, joining the practitioners in this sector who are drawing attention to this challenge. Let's keep on focusing on this. And thank you so much for making the time to be with us today.
I feel we should have a song to lead people out. So next time we'll have a song.
Yeah. Thank you for the hearts. We send our hearts back
Yes.
and look forward to seeing you on September 8th. If anyone you know missed this first session, they can still register and join to come talk with us and hear from our speakers about all things supporting early educators.